Well, hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie Dahl with Dahl Fisher, your estate planning and probate attorneys here in Denver, Colorado. And today I am very lucky to have with me Jamie Sarche. So good morning, Jamie. It's morning when we're recording this. So good morning. Good to see you.
Oh, it's so great to see you. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And I'm so glad to have Jamie here because Jamie's going to talk about, a lot of people don't want to talk to me about estate planning because they don't want to talk about, if they are incapacitated or if they die, but they really don't want to talk to Jamie because you really do talk about what happens when you die. And so I'm so thankful to have her here because sometimes the easiest thing is to listen and to take kind of some of the fear out of this and get some questions answered so that you can open that door and really, have conversations and talk about it. So Jamie, tell us about yourself. What do you do?
Thank you so much. And you're exactly right, because in your case, they think they're sort of talking about risk and they might be thinking it's just theoretical. With me, they know it's not, it's real. So what we do is talk about all the choices that go around death. Really like what's going to happen after we die. What are we putting in place to give our loved ones a path to walk on in their bereavement, to, of course, take care of our body, but really to take care of our loved ones, to make sure that they get a healthy and healing bereavement.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's so important. So Jamie, you work for Feldman Mortuary.
That's right.
And you do pre-planning for them. And I think this is so important. I always tell people, we do what we call is disposition of last remains, which is a really terrible, boring way to put it. But I think the pre-planning is so important because it's exactly what you just said, which is, when you pass away, your loved ones are left with this void because they miss you. And it's so hard. And there's such a fury of emotions that come up. And so when you've set out what you would want and your wishes and everything else, it actually provides a lot of comfort that I think people don't realize that that's what it provides for their family, that this is kind of their last gift to their family in that sense.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
And one of the things that also happens is that when we're grieving, we can't think. And so that is a terrible time to be making decisions that are huge, that are expensive, and that are lifelong. So if we make the wrong decision, we will regret it for the rest of our lives. And it often leads to terrible interactions among family members if decisions haven't been made. I have seen many families who never speak to each other again.
I know. Well, I recall, I think you and I have talked about this, but personally, and I never, I do this for a living and I didn't realize it. When my grandfather passed, they called me, told me he passed, and then, they were as nice as they could about it, but they said, where would you like us to send his body? Which is just, it is jarring, right? Because you're in the process of figuring out what they just told you about the loss of a loved one and then talking very technically about something. And it just is really hard. And so if you don't know and then all of a sudden you're spending your time on the phone trying to call, get quotes, figure this out. And it's such a terrible place to be in when you're trying to grieve. So tell us a little bit about the pre-planning process and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. So you're exactly right. That is not a good time to be making these decisions. And these things are not a commodity. No. So when you're just kind of saying, let me see your general price list, A, you don't know what those things mean. And B, going with the cheapest is not always your best choice. It's often not your best choice at all. Yeah. So what I do is prevent all of that. I meet with the person, him or herself, or a couple, however we're going to do it. We talk about all the decisions, and there's 120 of them.
Oh my God.
And that's also the pieces of information that somebody's going to need for a death certificate. I do all of that. I have it in a file. And we total all the decisions up. If you're going to be buried, you're going to need a casket. Are you going to want a newspaper notice? Do you want a limousine? If you're going to be cremated, should it be fire or water cremation, which is a new method of disposition? Do you want the newest natural organic reduction, which is also known as human composting? If you want to learn more about that, let's talk. But there's so many choices, and let's make all those decisions together. We total it all up, and then you pay today's cost for services that hopefully are decades from now. The money gets held by an insurance product. And if you want to, you can pay for it over time. I paid over 5 years for my services. I paid a low monthly fee. And if God forbid I had died during that time, there was a life insurance component. So my family would never have to make decisions, and they don't have to come up with any money. And when I die, the place where I am is just going to know this is who you call. That's all. My family knows it's one phone call. All they're going to have to do is review the plan, make sure it still fits. You know, like now my children aren't married. So in the step for the newspaper that just says their names, hopefully there's going to be a spouse to add for the newspaper and children and things like that. But that's it. They're not going to make any decisions. They're just going to be able to sit in their whatever feelings they're having.